I got 200K that goes directly to you personally.
Welcome to Culture Screen, where we analyze culture. In this episode, we are summarizing the 11th episode from Season 6 of the Sopranos series titled Cold Stones. The episode first aired on May 21st, 2006. In the beginning, AJ is fired from Blockbuster and Meadow is going to move to California in order to chase after Vin, who is already enrolled in dental school. Meadow does not know if she will continue to go to law school or medical school. Here again we see just how opposite AJ and Meadow are to each other, although being raised in the same household by the same parents. As a result of all this, Carmela grows stressed and decides that she wants to take a trip to France. She reminds Tony that she won tickets to France a while back and would like for him to join her. Tony reminds Carmela that there is no way he will be able to take off from work for a vacation, especially now. However, Tony is a lot less selfish now after his near-death experience, and he suggests Carmela should go to France on her own or with Rosalie.
If Vito was here and you knew about it...
In another scene, Vito surprises Tony at a mall and tries to strike up a deal with him. Vito suggests he can pay his way back into the family. Tony is of course upset at this because Vito surprised him to begin with, and Vito told him that his brother was watching them from afar to ensure Vito's safety. This enrages Tony, and he refuses to have a cordial sit-down with him. As we catch back up with Carmela and Rosalie, we see they are in France, and Carmela is shocked when she sees the artwork and history present everywhere she looks. Rosalie, on the other hand, is more amazed at being able to smoke indoors and is concerned over her lost glove. Phil Leotardo is with his wife Patty at home, and we see his wife is almost pushing him into taking action against Vito for his sexuality. Patty repeatedly urges Vito to handle the situation with Vito due to the shame his acts bring to their family, especially her. We see just how ruthless Patty is, even when compared to someone as cold as Phil. We see Vito walk into a supermarket and he meets up with a DeMeo crew associate. The associate asks Vito for a $20,000 loan at a 2% interest rate. When Vito counters with a 2.5% rate instead, they agree and Vito loans him the cash. Later that night, Vito calls up Tony to see if he has reconsidered accepting him back into the crew, and Tony agrees to meet with him and discuss the issue further. Tony sets up the meeting so Carlo would be the one to show up to take out Vito instead, but the meeting with Vito never takes place because immediately as Vito hangs up the phone with Tony, he enters his hotel room and he is ambushed and taken out by Phil Leotardo and two of his crew members. There has been speculation over Phil Leotardo's own sexuality in this scene when we see him gripping the bedsheet while Vito is being beaten. When Tony hears of the news, he becomes extremely upset because Phil took it upon himself to get rid of Tony's capo when Tony repeatedly told Phil that he had the Vito situation under control from the beginning. This was a disrespectful move on behalf of the New York crew, and the next day when the DeMeo crew is assembled at Satrialis, they find out about Vito being taken out and they all deduce it must have been Phil. Silvio ends up explaining to Tony that the guys are going to question his leadership if he does not make a move on Phil after taking out one of their captains. Tony responds by saying that he would love to take revenge for what Phil did behind his back, but he also knows that he won't make any money if his men are all involved in an all-out war with New York. As we catch back up with Carmela and Rosalie, we see they are in a museum, and Carmela stops to see a gold necklace. She contemplates how the person who once wore the necklace is now long gone, like she will be eventually. Traveling to France pushes Carmela to understanding that life truly ends, but the world just carries on. While Carmela is having a philosophical experience, Rosalie does not see France through the same lens as she does. We must remember that Rosalie has experienced true losses in her life. Her husband died of cancer and her son was murdered. She understands full well that life goes on and that most of what we experience and create here on Earth eventually is left behind. Carmela shares with Rosalie that when Tony was hospitalized and in a coma, at one point he said, "Who am I and where am I going?" Carmela comes to the conclusion that she also has no idea who she is or where she is going as well. She tells Rosalie that in the end, all of their experiences end up getting washed away, and she proceeds to cry in Rosalie's arms. This scene is crucial because we see Carmela is having an experience similar to one Tony had when he was hospitalized. Traveling to France has changed how Carmela sees life. Remember, I am summarizing this entire series as well as other popular works of literature, movies, and TV shows as well. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next episode or series. Let me know what you'd like me to summarize in the comments section below. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Visit our merch store and support us on Patreon if you can. Doing this helps my channel out tremendously. I thank you for your support.
What you resent Carmela doing for AJ and wished your mother had done for you.
In Tony's next session with Dr. Melfi, Tony complains about AJ being raised by Carmela and how this is what made him soft, weak, and lazy. Tony tells Melfi that AJ is the way he is because he was not allowed to physically beat him when he was growing up. Dr. Melfi pushes back on Tony and says that abusing AJ would have only fostered an abusive personality in AJ. Melfi adds that perhaps Tony became a bully because he himself was bullied and abused by his father. Tony in turn grew up with a desperate need to dominate and control others around him, according to Melfi. Dr. Melfi ends the session by telling Tony that he resents Carmela for protecting AJ because Livia never protected Tony from his father's abusive acts toward him. Back at S6E11, Fat Dom stops by to drop off some cash, and Carlo and Silvio are there to receive the cash. Dom sits down to talk to the fellas, and he begins to comment on Vito's demise. He throws a few jokes as a way of offending Sil and Carlo. After multiple jokes, Dom ends up taking it too far, and Silvio attacks him. Carlo jumps in, and they end up taking out Fat Dom. Later on in the day, Tony stops by, and Silvio tries to prevent him from coming in. Tony pushes through regardless, and is both shocked and amazed to see Dom laying on his floor. Tony then heads home and sees AJ sitting on his couch, drinking and playing video games with two of his friends. Tony takes AJ to the garage, and he instructs him that he now has a construction job, and that if AJ does not go to the construction site to work, he will begin taking things away from him. Tony says he will start by taking away his car and will then proceed to take away his other possessions until finally kicking him out of his house if he does not comply. Tony also tells AJ that he loves him and that he only wants to see him do good. However, as a way of proving to AJ that he is serious and that he can also wield an iron fist, Tony takes a football helmet and smashes in AJ's windshield before walking away. In this scene, we see how Tony had a change of heart. His session with Dr. Melfi pushed him to see that his hatred for his own son stemmed from the abuse he suffered as a child. Tony is able to quickly turn this around, and he finally treats AJ with respect and love. Rather than criticizing or offending him, he tells AJ that he loves him and offers him an opportunity to grow as a person and as his son. Back in France, Carmela is sleeping, and she has a dream where she sees Adriana walking her puppy, Cosette. Adriana tells Carmela that she finally found Cosette. Immediately, a man tells Carmela in her dream that someone should tell Adriana that she is actually dead. Carmela wakes up and turns on her light, unable to sleep again. We see Carmela subconsciously feels guilty over the lifestyle she is able to afford because she knows it is all blood money. She knows the life she has is a direct result of Tony's criminal activity, and although she has had this deep philosophical experience in France, the reality of her being married to Tony does not wash away who she truly is. As Carmela struggles to go back to sleep, we see Patty Leotardo sleeping just fine. As Phil and Patty are in bed at night, Phil is wide awake, perhaps contemplating what he did to Vito and his family. We see very early on that it was Patty who was most bothered by Vito's lifestyle, not Phil. We saw firsthand how she pushed and pressed the matter until Phil had no choice but to take matters into his own hand. Patty inevitably pushed Phil into stepping over Tony and taking out Vito himself. As Carmela prepares to leave France, she walks out of her hotel and sees a lighthouse off in the distance. The lighthouse is exactly the one Tony saw in his coma dream when he was Kevin Finnerty. The lighthouse reminds us of how far Carmela is from home and of her comfort zone. The next day, Carmela is back in New Jersey doing laundry. We see she is in deep thought while AJ is getting ready to head to his new construction job. In the final scene, we see Vito's children reading about how their father was brutally murdered in a newspaper article. The viewer is left wondering how this will affect his children going forward.
I got a meeting of concerned Catholic mothers.
That was episode number 76, titled Cold Stones. To watch the next or previous episode summary, click on the link in the description or at the end of this video. In the description, you will also find additional links for supporting our channel. See you on the next episode.
Dad wasn't a spy? No.
We upload new videos every week, so subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Click the notification bell to be notified of when we upload these videos. See you on the next episode of Culture Screen.